It's my pleasure to welcome you all for this important dialogue on the road ahead on future fuels, startups, and local manufacturing. Exclusive domains of scientific community, NGOs, or some climate activists. Today, that narrative has shifted fundamentally. The conversations are now actively championed by industry associations, industry bodies, and commercial enterprises. We have shifted from a very purely intellectual and academic discussion to actual concrete business, financial, and commercial realities. As a science and technology cluster, we at RICH are in the thick of this transition. We aren't just discussing the future, we are leading the execution on the ground. Our focus spans on energy transition, industrial decarbonization, accelerating the e-mobility adoption. Through one of the projects on greening of MSMEs, we are helping MSMEs target and adopt greener practices. The government is doing its bit. We've launched an MSME greening dashboard and tool that will help smaller enterprises with energy audits, compendiums, technology adoption, and so on. So the panel today is extremely relevant and extremely important. If we have to achieve energy independence and if we have to meet our decarbonization goals, it requires an interplay between future fuels to replace the fossil base loads, startups and scientists who will break the traditional barriers with agile innovation, and local manufacturing to secure our supply chains. Therefore, to discuss all this and more, I'm really privileged to welcome our experts who have diverse backgrounds in this field. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Akula Venugopal, Chief Scientist and Chair, Department of Catalysis and Fine Chemicals, CSIR IICT. Mr. Siddhartha Durairajan, Founder and CEO, Highliner Technologies, and Mr. Devender Reddy, Founder and CEO, E-Ride E-Mobility. A very, very hearty welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us here for the panel discussion. I want to start with you, Dr. Venugopal. Your research has spanned across molecular and chemical pathways on alternative fuels. And like I said, as the conversation is now shifting from academic circles to how it can be made commercially viable, how can the government and industry play a role in terms of supporting, in terms of co-funding some of these projects? And what do you think premier institutions like IICT can play a role in this?
Good afternoon, madam. I just met my fellow panelists, Devender Reddy ji and Siddharth ji. Before I answer your question, I just would like to brief on the title of today's meet, Clean Energy Summit 2026. We have been listening since morning on the alternatives. There was R&D research 30 years ago. People were working on how to mitigate this particular carbon dioxide, early 60s and 70s. Because of several reasons, United Nations just ignored the impact of CO2. Then the R&D switched over to, mitigation of CO2 in the early 80s. And people have started working on how to mitigate this, capture and convert into useful compounds. Even Indian refineries like Indian Oil Corporation started R&D in the early 90s to mitigate, capture and convert the CO2 into methanol and DME. As you all know that DME is a substitute, blender for LPG, up to 20%. Then later on the whole world realized that to convert carbon dioxide into methanol and DME, you need hydrogen. Then it was realized that hydrogen is more precious than carbon dioxide. So people then, they stopped working on, R&D projects, except China. Everybody stopped. 35 years ago, China seriously worked on, mitigation of CO2 to convert CO2 into methanol and DME. the lowest price of Chinese methanol is now 35 to 40 rupees. Before pandemic, it was 18 rupees. You see the growth of China, how it has made, just the entire world ignored the mitigation of CO2. That's another story. But coming back to why I was saying this is, policymakers changes their strategies. Depends on what we call, convenience, and we were discussing in another aspect. Sometimes, nations must, succumb to the United Nations, what you call conditions, whatever it is. That is a different story. But anyway, coming back to, why we are sitting here, to discuss on clean energy. My area of research is, green hydrogen. I have been working for the last 20 years on production of hydrogen. There is only one method is that if you start with any carbonaceous material to produce hydrogen, you will end up with carbon dioxide. That is obvious. On the other hand, if you start with non-carbonaceous materials, only water is the source, or biomass, which is renewable. Biomass is good. We can extract hydrogen from biomass, but the byproduct, the end product cannot be, very difficult to handle. The entire process of making hydrogen from biomass. On the other hand, splitting of water is much easier, but the efficiency of that process is much lower because there is only one single plant in China located at Sichuan, which is making 200 tons per year, which is meager amount, 200 tons per year, that hydrogen production capacity. No other plants are established in the entire world. I used to work 10 years ago under a program, central government program called TAPSON, where we have done some work, but we couldn't make, hydrogen from water in millimoles. We were getting micromoles, so that project was closed. And coming back to your question, madam, the industry and government co-funded projects like demonstration projects, it is expected that the co-funded projects, a kind of bridge between the policies made by government and the end product, kind of, the product that any firm is going to establish. So, such funding can be encouraged at risk-sharing levels. The model must be risk-sharing. It cannot be just like that given away government. And I'll tell you one example. 5-6 years ago, since we are in R&D, many people from Maharashtra and in and around Pune visited us. And they because I was working on green methanol and green DME. Still we are at TRL5. We are going to establish a plant in IICT premises in Maulali with a capacity of 180 kg of DME per day. It's a mini demo plant. So when the client comes to us, they explain us their importance, their requirements and all. The moment I ask, are you targeting for PLI? That's it. He's gone. He will never come back. There are like that. So to avoid such kind of, industry, government interactions and all, it must be a risk-sharing model, and that should be monitored by a kind of academic and industry partner, as well as a representative from government of Telangana. And the fund release must be kind of what you call the milestones, whatever they confess or promise, based on that, the fund must be released. The milestones must be, cross-checked with regularly. And as per IICT, what IICT can do is that we are a knowledge partner.
Yeah.
We can contribute R&D R&D partner, as well as we can also be a evaluator from outside as a third party evaluation. So this is what my opinion for that.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing your thoughts. And I completely agree that the role of the research institution is to conduct research, come up with innovative technology and research, while leaving the heavy lifting to the industry partners and the government. Thank you. Mr. Durai Rajan, I'll come to you. Your work is in the area of nuclear fusion, and we all know that that's the holy grail of clean energy. Earlier, it has, since many years, it has been confined to large global funded labs. But now, companies like yourselves are breaking those barriers. So, what do you think? What role do companies like you to play to break those barriers and bring innovative technologies, not just being confined to the larger ones?
Good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for the question. Before I respond to it, I think it's going to be a challenging session after a heavy lunch, so I'll try to keep it as interesting as possible. See, the idea of nuclear fusion is always something that people think is few decades away. And that has been the case because there is a very interesting saying that I grew up with. Future is not what it used to be. So today, if my idea of future is tomorrow we will probably be all on electric mobility, I think we will be flawed. Maybe a year later it will change. So the idea of future, or what we call as energy, should always be represented in terms of abundance. Today morning there were few sessions, and I think one of the audience asked a question, hey, there are 100 lights, why can't we switch off few and save 20? See, predominantly our nature is saving. I mean, you will not progress if your nature is saving. Your nature should be abundance. Hey, we have 100, why don't we make 200? Let's produce energy for those 200 lights. That should be the nature of abundance. And that's where the need for an industry, the need for maybe what Dr. Venugopal said, like PLI is a good initiative, but there is always a stigma attached to it. The need for the industry to come and do it. Now, let me just go back to how you relate to energy. Energy is like our Hyderabad traffic, Everybody complains about it. Nobody understands about it, but we still need it every day. So your answer for energy does not lie in looking down, or does not lie in taking those baby steps. It has to be the pinnacle of energy, which is nuclear fusion. Maybe after our conversation, I urge you to go see the stall behind us, which is Hylanar. Not to promote Hylanar, but in your lifetime, you'll have the privilege of seeing a nuclear fusion device right here in the hotel. That's the power of fusion. And that is what is going to define tomorrow for two reasons. One, fusion is abundant energy. So you can run this entire building, you can power an aircraft, you can power a submarine, you can power a simple bike. I mean, everybody, there was an ad that everybody remembers when somebody says, we bought a car or a bike, they say, "Arey, kitna deta hai?" Why should that question come up? the energy abundance will beat off those questions. And that's the first thing that we have to do.
Thank you. Point very well taken that India probably should get out of the scarcity mindset and start looking at how we can be abundant in every aspect of our life. Thank you for sharing that. I'll come to you, Mr. Reddy. Your work is in e-mobility, EV, and we all know that as a country we've made really good progress in the assembly side of it. But when it comes to raw materials or even power electronics, we are still heavily dependent on import. So what, according to you, could be some incentives that we can offer to the local manufacturers here so that they become the tier 1, tier 2 suppliers for the entire e-mobility value chain?
Thanks for this question. I'd just like to introduce to the audience, I'm Alwala Devendra Reddy. I'm founder of E-Ride E-Mobility Company. We are into battery operated 3-wheelers on the road and 4-wheelers within campus. See, I cannot directly answer these questions because we need to come to a stage why we are here and what made us to come over here. The reason is that if you look at alternative mobility, what we are into, we woke up very late. It was, we all know that China took ahead and they started doing this one. I can say we are 15, 20 years behind the story to take the path of e-mobility. And obviously, you know why the wars are fought nowadays. It is oil and rare earth materials. So China was able to visualize this one, and about 97% of these rare earth materials or the particles which are used for these battery systems are there with them. And they have mastered the art of manufacturing at a scale. Even for your powertrain, they are giving reliable sources, because even if you make whatever today we are making in India, the raw material for the batteries is coming from there, the magnet for your motor is coming from there. Okay, and I'm one among them who always say that we don't need incentives. Let there be one nation, one policy, because India has many Indias. Okay, and we cannot just drive it through incentivization. First, you need to understand the problem and come with a solution, because incentives will never be a solution to all the problems on earth. And if you look at strength of India's MSME segment, okay, apart from the large companies what you are seeing in newspaper, but MSME is the backbone of this nation. And if MSME is empowered to come into this segment, where, you know, we may not look at today's ore from Rajasthan or Jammu Kashmir, what we traced it recently, but I believe when we are talking about green, we should also look at the circular economy. Okay, recently there are about 4 startups from Delhi Capital, and one of the guy who made a statement that through the recycling of this available rare earth materials, I can find a solution for the components what are required for India for the EV, the numbers what we are looking at. So when we are talking about here, we all are part of the urban mining. If you look at your phones, you have those components. You look at laptops, you have those components. Also, you look at your laptops and all those stuff. Okay? So if we are thinking of carbon net zero by 2070, what India has said, government of Telangana has taken a very ambitious target of 2047 for carbon net zero. I know how we are going to achieve it, because we are still talking about incentives, but not owning a responsibility towards this climate action. Okay, as citizens, we should take that ownership also. So beyond incentives, if we start adapting to the circular economy, and we should not look at the material behind or beneath the earth, but also over the ground, that can be one of the solutions. And otherwise, there is a structured program where people will ask you to come with the clusters of manufacturing and all those things at large scale. That is going to take definitely some time, because we are looking at Russia now. We are looking at Bolivia to import those products. So it has its own challenges, but we'll find our own ways and means to handle it. It's going to take some time for this one.
Yeah. Maybe I'll probe you a little more. When I said incentives, what I meant was how do we incentivize the local manufacturers and not really incentives in the monetary terms. So what support do you think can local manufacturers be given so that they take up these, activities in India, in the local regions?
See, there are two types of manufacturers, again I can say that, who have a vision, like he is talking about fusion technology, which nuclear technology, and it's going to take some time to imbibe that into the products what we are developing. He is into theory, he is into product, I'm into implementation. Okay, for me, a TC has to come to my consumer who is sitting there. Okay, we'll find solution when that problem comes in, because if you look at India, India is still about 20 lakhs of electric three-wheelers. Recently, one gentleman went to UP and saying, they have electric three-wheelers which has 20 lakhs EVs still running on lead-acid batteries. And most of them are manufactured there only. Okay, so we have these technologies which can support the local power systems, but if you are coming to the heart and soul of those products, we are still dependent on the import. Now, how these people are coming is that, if you look at EV revolution as such, I'll take you back to 97s, 98s. It has started as an import product to replace the manual rickshaw. Government has not done anything during that time. It's the people, it's the traders, it's the MSME segment who started importing, they started building these products. In fact, interestingly, in India, EV revolution started with electric three-wheelers, not by two-wheelers or four-wheelers. Today we are seeing four-wheelers on the road because they saw the success of three-wheelers and two-wheelers. Still there are challenges for four-wheelers on the road for charging infra, because hardly people can say that what will happen, my vehicle stops on the road. Those challenges, when we started in 2017-18, we have handled those challenges. So people come forward with these solutions, and one solution cannot happen in terms of incentivizing. I'm against of incentivizing because we don't want land, we don't want money. What we want a proactive policy which will make us to deliver what market needs. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, sure. Point taken that sometimes we should just let the markets decide the market. Coming back to you, Dr. Venugopal, your work focuses largely on green hydrogen, methanol, and so on. And as a state, Telangana has a large agricultural base. And how do you see the role of the feedstock and say all the biomass that is coming out in production and utilization of these green fuels?
Well, we have actually large agri base. We also have, kind of bio-based waste materials which can be effectively converted to chemicals and fuels. At large, at IICT, we have a big technology called AGR technology where, biogas can be generated from bio-waste, rice straw, napier grass, hyacinth, food waste, which contains only organic matter, not the inorganic matter. And the process is ready to demonstrate, which is at a level of TRL 8 now. There are about 15 installations in and around India with a production capacity. One is the biggest one at Akshaya Patra Foundation in Bhavnagar, Gujarat, which is established by IICT and which is cheaper. This is one application what we have in a conversion of bio-waste into biogas. That is one part. On the other hand, if you can retrieve that methane from the biogas, it can be converted to a product called hythane, where 15 to 20% of hydrogen balanced methane is called hythane, which is 4 times efficient fuel than the conventional CNG vehicles. It's because of hydrogen. And that it picks up quickly, it takes off, and the fusion takes place instantaneously, so that the fuel burns efficiently. Because no ICE All ICE works according to Carnot cycle, right? Principle. Otherwise, fuel cells, we won't follow that. As a result, efficiency will be high in fuel cells. That's another thing. This is the second product that we have. Apart from this, people are also working on direct biomass derived syngas to methanol and DME. But my opinion is that there is no one in Telangana who can take up this process, what we call fisher crops, to make synthetic fuels, because to make such a plant, you have to spend at least $8 to $10 billion. Okay, there are few plants in and around the world. The biggest plant is located in China, which they are using, apart from coal, they are also using biomass derived waste compounds to make synthetic fuels, like, kerosene, gasoline, diesel, and oxygenates, which we don't get in nature. Except ethanol, we don't get any alcohol in nature. Otherwise, also there are processes like, biomass can be converted to biomethanol. Because methanol, if you have in hand methanol, CO, hydrogen, you can make hell of compounds. There are technologies available and the technologies are fixed in shelf. Just use that recipe and you can make the chemical. Okay. And the second plant is established in Sasol in South Africa. Unfortunately, having large coal mines resources, we do not have a single plant in entire India which will work for fisher crop synthesis to make synthetic fuels. Otherwise, we are trying to make utilization of cutting trees and biomass into fuels. We have coal, but unfortunately our coal is not 100%. It has got more ash content and its calorific value is slightly high. Bituminous coal that can also be utilized to make. So is the reason why Government of India is going to establish a plant with 46,000 crores, what we call a CTL plant, coal to liquids. This is an alternative. And otherwise, why people want to work more on biomass to chemicals? If your option is to convert the stubble, rice grass, okay, man, rice grass kind of hyacinth, such things can be effectively converted to, fuels and all. And what is the subsequent next question? I mean, in the continuation of that question, madam?
Yeah, so how can we look at these abundant mass that we have to actually manufacture the commercial?
These are all absolutely can be, commercialized. And the greatest advantage with biomass derived fuels is that on one hand you are generating fuels, on the other hand the byproduct is biomanure, which is more resilient than the inorganic fertilizers.
Right. Thank you for highlighting the importance. When we at RICH were developing the green hydrogen consortium, IICT was one of our important partners in looking at the bio-based manufacturing of green hydrogen. And it was very clear that while it may take us a few years to get there, that is going to be one of the most economic ways to bring out green hydrogen. So thank you for highlighting that.
Just add one quick point is that our strength at IICT is we are about 450 permanent staff and temporary staff at about 550 and 600 PhD students, total 1600, out of which at least 1800 people will eat lunch and breakfast in our canteen. And the gas supply is generated from the food waste that is generated to IICT technology.
Thank you. That is some perspective. Mr. Durarajan, coming to you, and the topic that we were discussing off this dais just a few minutes ago, that deep tech startups require patient capital, and the technology that you are dealing with requires precision engineering, very, very high end equipment. So have you faced any challenges? I know funding is always a challenge in that, and also finding that capability in the local ecosystem.
Rashmi, interesting take is funding is a double-edged sword. Now, if you look at the entire ecosystem of funding, there are two organized way of putting out the funds for any startup. One is the government grants and government funding. Second is the venture capital now the beauty about or the flip side about deep tech startups is they have a gestation period of minimum 10 years before they can. We have come here almost after 11 years of research and development. Now, a venture capital has a fund life of around 7 years. I mean, they would want to return to their investors and exit at 7 years and 10 years. So, definitely there is a gap on how we can get venture capital. But the government, today's initiatives, RDIF funds, these are definitely an interesting initiatives, but it's just that there is not many manuals for us to get there, number one. Number two, in fact, the presence of Dr. Venugopal, and institutions like IICT, institutions like DRDO, DMRL, there are Indian Institute of Science, there are a lot of these deep tech space institutions that have to come forward for footing this. At least they can get the funding and they can provide the required ecosystem. Say for example, I'll talk to you about one machine called as residual gas analysis. The whole of country has only one, that too in Indian Institute of Science, and that too it's broken. So neither can we build it, nor do we have the capability of doing it. So the two things that needs to be addressed for a deep tech space company is see that if we can be given that runway to get there, number one. Number two, there should be a industry, academia, collaboration as rightly put out by Dr. Venugopal. And one last point that I would add, what Mr. Reddy said is, the startups don't want incentives. Startups don't want your blessings. I mean, for the lack of right words. But at least there should be some policy that governs what we are doing, and that should not be an hindrance for us to get to the market. As simple as that.
Yeah, I think breaking barriers, also providing the right connections, providing the right foot in the door at the right time, and facilitating partnerships is something that deep tech startups really need. And we at Rich see that day in and day out. So thank you for bringing that out. Mr. Reddy coming.
Yeah, I will answer. Before that, I would like to request the people in the stalls to come on and sit over here. You are disturbing the panel members, please. Thank you for policing. See, I need to answer that in a specific way, because if you look at two-wheelers, we are much, there's a low-hanging fruit of adoption to go for having that numbers on the road. We are there in terms of numbers, we are there in two-wheelers. And then coming to three-wheelers, there's a gap based on policies of states to states. And then four-wheelers, we are picking up, but it is not as per the anticipation what we expected that four-wheelers pick up. Because when we got into industry in 2018, we thought that by 2025, the conversion of four-wheeler will happen faster. But still the consumers of four-wheeler are facing the same challenges. I'll again come back to what I said earlier. India has many Indias, and within this country, we have about 28 EV policies across the country. You know, that's the reason I strongly advocate that for having that numbers on the road, there should be uniform policy to incentivize the manufacturers to have the industry that can be given the state governments. For example, today we are talking about charging stations. Kerala government, about a couple of years ago, they said we'll not incentivize the users, but we'll incentivize the charging stations. charging stations, I always say that it is like visibility. Police ka danda dikhta na, then people say that policing is happening. That gives you assurance that, I can go. Today, a government official said that from Asiova to Hyderabad, she faced many challenges. That is a reality. Once you fix those gaps, then the movement will happen. See, two-wheelers, three-wheelers have happened in some of the states. Four-wheelers is happening in buses. Because most of the business, what's happening in buses adoption, because of central government push, and also it is on OPEX model, not on CAPEX. OPEX model for audience, I'll just make it, it's like a rental base. It is not that you invest the capital. Okay, so all the state governments are welcoming that OPEX model. Hence, we are seeing a lot of fleet operation transition into buses segment. And then there's a huge opportunity. If government permits the four-wheeler buses, four-wheeler for the transportation of school kids, that's another low-hanging fruit which you can convert it, apart from the commercial vehicles. Because commercial vehicles, TCO is not working, hence you are seeing that gap of, still we are waiting for the alternative. We call our industry as alternative green mobility, not just EV. Alternative, today we are there from lead acid, we move to lithium, and we are waiting for the other solution coming from this group saying that, we can use this technology, we'll integrate that technology, and we are there in alternative green mobility. And that is going to take some time to have these products into market. But today, if you see, I'll say again, we have high commercial vehicles. This can be come up as a inflation point or absorption into EV, because those are products which are emitting more, carbon CO2 into the road. And coming to state, if you allow me, I can talk on this one. Many people from policy side are here. First, I congratulate government of Telangana for giving this waiving off of road tax and registration from four-wheelers to buses. Buses, anyhow, they are consuming it. And for four-wheelers, I don't know, that is a HNA segment. That segment also should congratulate. But there are some gaps in the policies which is depriving one segment of the customers. If we are a democratic nation, we should give the benefits of EV to all segments of the society. But the gaps in today's EV policy is not allowing one segment of people to have an electric vehicle. And there's a major chunk. This chunk has become vote bank in other states. Okay, so it should not be only to see that EV is not only for HNA customers, it is for middle class, lower middle class. Then you are talking that there's a democratic nation and all fruits of electrification is coming to people who are from the lower strata of the society.
Thank you. Dr. Venugopal, coming back to you again now. We know that scale is the ultimate test for alternative fuels, and from a research standpoint, where do you see the most immediate opportunity for localized and decentralized manufacturing of production equipments for these alternative fuels, be it electrolyzers or bioreactors, so that the capex cost for smaller companies or MSMEs come down?
Madam, for bioreactors, we have full package of technology available at IICT. The advantage of bio CNG compared to conventional CNG is that biogas generated from any plant is will have kind of 60% methane, 40% CO2, but the concentration of methane is enhanced up to 95% by AGR technology, anaerobic gas lift reactor, which is developed by IICT. That is there 100%. And the question of decentralized, localized is always advisable, because the input raw material is available at urban and rural areas, right? Even urban also, not right in the center of the city, in and around Hyderabad. So it is always better to have, decentralized places at rural areas where one can get the raw material in a short time or not much time to get the transportation and all. Coming back that question, what is it, electrolyzers? Actually, I was just reading the literature because it is my research area. Otherwise, our CSR sister labs are working on PEM and AEM, anion exchange membrane electrolyzers and polymer electrolyte membrane. There are, if somebody is working on trying to develop these PEM and AEM, no, please don't do that. If there is one problem with China, okay, because China is a landlocked country and certain things you will not buy, government will not permit, okay. If you try to buy from China and try to assemble it here, it is not possible. Just check the list, what we call KSM, key starting materials, which is released by Government of India, where those items, if someone, any MSME is trying to buy from China and assemble here and sell it, it is not possible. Otherwise, if you want to develop the indigenous technology for any spare parts, gas separators, gas liquid separators, or otherwise any membranes within India, we will not compete. Okay, it's okay. If they are not permitted from China to buy, you develop it. That's okay. Though your efficiency of your material is 80% is also okay, provided it should not be imported from China. There should be restriction. Then only go ahead. Otherwise, don't work on, start now developing the PEM. It's already crossed. Netherlands, there is one company called Shell. Shell already, almost they are going to commercialize this SOECFC. Solid oxide electrolytes, SOECs. They are going to commercialize very soon. The efficiency will be very high. Whereas in PEM, people will use platinum and iridium where it works only in acidic conditions. Whereas AEM will work in alkali conditions. But when you compare, here also you will not get any permission from PCB because your outlet stream will have either acidic or basic. Acidic is more dangerous than basic. Because there is a clause called, ZLD, zero liquid discharge. Okay? They count on, they say on paper EPA standards. Obviously, your outlet will have ppm level of, not ppm, millimoles it will be there.
Thank you, Dr. Venugopal. I hope the companies in the audience will take the advice. Mr. Durarajan, coming back to you, as an innovation ecosystem enabler, Rich, I'm asking this question because we need inputs from innovative companies, how a cluster level approach should be taken. And you touched upon it a bit in the previous question in terms of funding and the right networks. But what support do you think deep tech startups need the most to advance? And from what quarters?
I had articulated few of the points off the stage, but I'll importantly word it around three segments. See, you are in a position to understand both sides of the story. So you are actually the bridge in terms of what we want. Now, we have T-Hub, we have all these incubation centers across the country. But if you want to name deep tech incubation centers, you can just count them in your hand, very few. We are currently in a place called IIIT. And of course, there is a very interesting incubation for us that's happening here because the professors are collaborating with us. They are lending their test labs for us. And I guess that is an important aspect. How do you get these? See, today an IIT has an access only to an IITians for an incubation. Though they might have a lot of facilities, which is still government funded, but they are not even consumed to 10% of their capability. So an ecosystem that there is a website today that has which center has what, but it's just a raster data. A connected ecosystem saying that, hey, you want this, you go to Indore, RRCat, I'll give you this. That is number one. Number two, I'll not touch about capital, but number two is the tier level, say from 1 to 5 or 6, is what an hand-holding from government should happen. It doesn't have to be in the name of funding. It can happen in the name of all the resources that you provide for them. And that will become a very critical thing. And the third final aspect that I would articulate upon here is a forum, a dedicated forum for all these things. Because today Mr. Reddy was talking about we were all discussing, but all of us are connected in some way or the other. And believe me, today we've come onto the stage as strangers, but we will go back home taking lot of knowledge, and this will transform into something. We don't have such forums. We don't have such forums where you are connected with a very clear reason. And that I would say all those 3 points that is required.
Absolutely valid points, and I completely agree with your thoughts on having a very, very connected ecosystem. While there are pockets of excellence working in their own priority areas, the need is to bring more and more of all of them together on a common platform. And through which we are trying some of that. We are onboarding hospitals for medtech startups. We are working closely with FPOs for agri-tech startups. We are working with other important stakeholders to help our energy and sustainability startups. But of course, a lot more needs to be done, and it's great that this platform is being provided for all of us to come together and share our thoughts. Mr. Reddy, coming to you, EV has been a game changer, but it also puts massive loads on our electricity grids. There have been some tariff concessions in other states. So what do you think about, these kind of concessions? And I know you talked about not wanting incentives, but leaving that topic aside, how do you think early stage startups, say, utilize energy technologies, energy 4.0 technologies? It could be, say, AI-driven demand response management, to ensure that the charging of the commercial fleet becomes an asset to the grid rather than a liability. What are your thoughts?
In fact, I know a few of people here have heard me earlier also. When we are talking about here, because we have an objective of clean and green energy and ambitious target of carbon net zero 2047, and India signed a signatory of 2016 policy where we said that we'll reduce number of vehicles on the road, and also we'll go for alternative way of energy. And we always say that, we people from EV say that, EV is not just a solution. EV plus renewable energy is a solution for this planet. And to restore the planet, we need to use EV and RE as a combination. And as Siddharth was talking about abundance, Prakriti, nature has given a lot of things to us. And if solar energy, if you tap even 2% of solar energy, that is sufficient to run all the vehicles on the road across the globe for entire 1 year. Nature teaches us a lot of things, and nature has already given energy in abundance to us. It is for us to channelize the energy in a right direction. Only for past 20 years, in the name of urbanization, we started destroying this nature. Okay, so EV and RE or any other renewable energy is a solution for this, to reach this goal of carbon net zero along with the circular economy. Coming to EV charging stations, yes, as we move on, we need to adapt the emerging technologies, and we need to integrate those technologies so that we can give better value proposition to the users of our products. And when we are talking about AI, AI is now coming across all lines of life, and EVs has no choice. We need to adapt, we need to integrate, and then that is going to help the consumers. Today, there are many things we can discuss on the charging stations and all those things. Definitely, those technologies will be enablers for the end customers as moving forward.
Thank you. I'm mindful of the time that we have, and I've also been signaled by the organizers that we have come to the end of our time here. But it was great to have this conversation with you. I'm really thankful to you for sharing your thoughts frankly and openly. I'm sure the audience has benefited from the wisdom of all three of you. Once again, thank you very much for joining us.